You, Robert, tell us a little about you and your awesome channel.
Okay, well, my channel is The Story Detective, where I take various forms of storytelling, including sequential art from my time at Marvel, writing, and other storytelling devices, and put them under my Sherlockian microscope, break down the craft, and give it to the viewer to make your craft journey easier. And there are new videos coming. I have been looking up stuff, and as soon as this draft is finished, I'm going to start revamping those videos.
That is like the rallying cry of all writers. Like as soon as this draft is finished, we're all right there. We're all right there. I'm so glad you're here today, Michelle. Tell us a little about you and your awesome channel.
All right, I'm Michelle Schusterman. I write middle grade and young adult novels, and my channel is Writing Workshops, Traditional Publishing Chat, and Writing Blogs.
Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
I'm Lisa Daly. I'm a traditionally published / indie published, aka hybrid author, and I write contemporary romance and writing advice books. And I used to write dating advice books. So lots of fun, lots and lots of fun. Let's say hi to our friends in the chat. Vixen's here. Hello, Vixen. We are super glad to see you. Mary Putnam is here. Hello, Mary. Glad to see you too. Susan. I'm so excited to see Susan today that I knocked my microphone off. I'm like, wow. Susan, welcome. We're super excited to see you. Daisy's here. Hey, Daisy. Glad to see you. Dana's here. Hello. Shelly's here. Hello, Shelly. We are super, super glad to see you all today. So as folks are starting to sort of filter in, what are you guys going to be working on today? Michelle, what do you got going on today?
Today, so I have a new ghostwriting client, and we're just in the very beginning stages. So I'm starting a beat sheet that we're going to be trading back and forth.
Ooh, fun. Very nice. That's always a good way to start. How about you, Robert? What are you going to be working on today?
I am going to try to finish this draft so I can get on with those YouTube videos. It's close.
It's close? How close is it? Is it finished on this stream close, or is it just close?
It's not going to be finished on the stream. There's probably 5 more scenes.
So definitely not.
Or less. So no.
I get that. Book Lover is here. Hello, Book Lover. We are super, super glad to see you today. Susan's going to be working on Medusa today. I'm so excited for that story. I think it's going to be awesome. I will be working. So I have a couple things that I'm working on today. One of them is that I have a coaching client who is doing a course. And so I'm going to be working on that a little bit during the stream today. And also I'm going to just take our first sprint and try and do like a straighten of my desk because I'm having one of those weeks where I've just done a ton and I feel like I'm surrounded by piles of paper, and I would like to I like to have like a nice clean slate when I work. Sometimes I feel like that sort of right. Then you get like, I don't know, frustrated, or your brain sort of feels cluttered if you're working in a crazy day. Mm-hmm. What are you guys working on in the chat? Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
I was just going to say it gets stagnant when the books are sitting around and it's cluttered for too long, and you just need to change it up and reorganize.
Yeah, that's true. Well, and I think like there's a real like feng shui thing about clutter. Mm-hmm. For sure. So I just noticed this, like you guys, I always my office that I work in every day is also my set. And I have this little flamingo pillow that usually is in front of the other pillow. It's super cute, but it has all these little pieces that are like the feathers of the flamingo. And so whenever the horror geek comes in here, I'm always like, oh, move that pillow out of the way. Otherwise, you're going to rip all those feathers out. And so I just realized I did not fancy up my office before I started the live stream today. It's going to bug me the whole time. I'm going to see that pillow. I might have to change it. All right. Anyway, let us know what you guys are working on in the chat today. Shelly is working on first draft of her or his or their middle grade. You can never make any assumptions. First grade of their middle grade novel. Eddie, is Eddie the name of the novel? I'm kind of fascinated. Amy's here. Hello, Amy. You know, it's so funny, Amy. I was just composing an email to you earlier today. I haven't finished yet. It's nothing that exciting. I just wanted to let you know. Dana's here. Hello, Dana. The muddle in the middle. That's the worst, the soggy middle. We can talk a little bit about how to solve some of those issues. Angela, hello from Cleveland. We're super glad to see you today. Very, very nice. Shelly says, yes, fantastic. Love, love, love. So Eddie's the title. Like I always love that name, Eddie. I think I saw this movie a million years ago that had Michael Pare in it. Was it called like Eddie and the Cruisers? I was a kid when I saw it.
Yeah.
It's super old movie. But yeah, anyway. Totally irrelevant sidebar. Sorry about that.
Had the soundtrack and everything.
Did you? I just remember that. So I think I just had a mad crush on that guy. I think his name was like Michael Pare. Anyway, he was like a musician and I don't know what it was. And I feel like there was some sort of saving the world element, but again, I was a kid. I don't know that I necessarily put the plot together well. Obviously.
Oh no. Lisa canceled herself. Hi, Abby.
She'll be back
I
momentarily.
also like your shirt.
Thanks.
It wasn't my fault that time. I swear it was StreamYard. I didn't touch a thing. CEO Savvy, we love you to death. And also, you guys, thank you so much for like chit-chatting while I was like, what happened? All right. Book lovers here working on a first draft of a novel inspired by the underworld. Love that. Love that. Very nice. I feel like I can't remember how to pronounce your name. Is it Ananya? Is that what everybody would guess? All right. Tell us if we're wrong. We think it's Ananya. But if it's not, tell us how to spell it phonetically, because we obviously don't want to say your name wrong for the whole stream. That would suck. All right. Anyway, yay, first draft. Super excited. Angela, right? I don't think they did ever make a sequel. Or if they did, I think they had a different person in it.
Oh, no, there was a sequel. And
was there?
The guy, he was kind of like hidden and making a comeback because his music was like, I don't know, he kind of disappeared, did a rock star thing where he vanished.
Right. I thought that wasn't that what happened the first one? I can't remember.
That was the second one.
Well, maybe I only saw the second one then. I don't know. Anyway. So yeah. Wow. What a crazy thing. Okay. So what are you guys all working on today? If you have not told us, let us know in the chat. We are going to get started with our first 5-minute warm-up sprint. So okay, she says, oh, you're right. Now I remember that. That's awesome. Amy is drafting a content proposal for a social media campaign and support a podcast launch. Nice. Very nice. I had to talk to you about that. All right. Very nice. Working on my first historical mystery. What? Angela, I love that. That is awesome. Congratulations. Okay. We are going to first get started with a 5-minute warm-up sprint. In the 5 minutes, yay, you can either start drafting, which can be a good thing because you have so little time. It's a good way to not start with a blank page, or you could get your document open and get your drink filled up and all that other good stuff.
And so I even have a question this week because it's something I'm seeing more and more in the writers helping writers, and I thought I'd cover it a little bit.
Oh, I'm excited about that. I'm very excited about that. All right, let's share. Okay. All right, everybody, here we go. We are going to put 5 minutes up on the clock, and we're going to get started for our first 5-minute warm-up sprint in 3, 2, 1. Let's cha-cha. Okay, let's get rid of this screen. There we go. All right. So, how did you guys do on our little warm up there?
Good.
Fantastic. I have a banner that I can't get rid of. All right, fantastic. So, Robert, tell us I know you said you had a question. So let's go ahead and dive right in with that today.
Well, this
So
began.
go ahead.
Go
Mhm.
ahead.
You go ahead. I was just handing off to you. I feel like I'm kind of stepping over everybody today. I'm not quite sure what that is, but clearly my rhythm is off. So I should not be entering any dance competitions today. Please go ahead, Robert.
The first post that I saw about this talked about a historical piece that somebody was writing. At least we think it's a historical piece. There was no context given, just that it was somebody that this person met who was in Vietnam who introduced himself in a derogatory way, and was wondering if historically using things like that is going to be considered racial. And everybody seems to be afraid of the whole woke thing and getting shot down. And just because some people say, well, I've never heard the term, and some people said, oh, yes, it is kind of a derogatory term, so don't use it. And then other people said, well, see, you're getting the reaction here. That's the reaction that people are going to have all over. And you don't want to confuse people or, you know, my thought is if you're doing a historical piece and people are behaving badly, as humans always have,
Yes.
novels kind of show pieces of history that even history books don't. And if you're going to research it and do it right, it's all about the context of how you present it, because you
Mhm.
don't want to sugarcoat it either in certain aspects, but it depends on the theme of your book. Are you just inserting that and it comes and goes and looks like a hanging derogatory statement, or are you going to have that as part of your theme and, you know, make people understand that this is what we've always done and we just aren't letting go of it? I don't know. What do you guys think?
So I'm having a hard time. So is the question like, should you use derogatory terms in context in historical novels?
Yeah,
Is
with
that
people that, may have been marginalized or just put down for various things. The term that he had, getting into, what he said is that it was a time during one of the wars when a lot of immigrants came from Italy and they were allowed in without a passport. And so they came up with a name that, was WOP, and it got transferred into this derogatory term for Italians. And he was wondering if this would be totally offensive. But since the guy introduced him as this in real life, could he use something like that in his book?
I think well, for that, I think a lot of people have like, for instance, I'm part Italian. I have heard the expression that I'll just say it because I'm Italian. Can I do that? WAP, right? That was the term we were
Mhm,
just talking about, which is not socially acceptable to say. It's
mhm.
not very nice, right? It's quite derogatory. However, I did not know the context for where that originated. And I would have actually found that really interesting in a book. So I think in that kind of context, I mean, there are some words that I would never, ever, ever touch in any
Yes.
right? No matter what. But I'll give you a really good example. There is a scene in my new book, The Cutting Edge, where an ex-boyfriend refers to our main character in with some really nasty derogatory words that we will not stand for as ladies, not happening,
Mhm.
or smart guys. And and she calls him out on it and the hero calls him out on it. And so in that context, it can be sort of a learning thing. It can be, a way to say like this is not acceptable. Um, but I I think it depends all on how you use it. I don't know. You guys, I'm dying to know what you think of it. I think it can be a good opportunity. I think there are some words you never want to mess with. And
Mhm.
I hate with anything with a novel, I hate to say never do this or definitely go ahead and do this because everything is so different. That's like a
It's
terrible
always
example.
sketchy, and I think it's one example of going back, to the 1960s or whatever, and we still have a big problem with people immigrating to this country, even though we've all been immigrated into this country, and it's a weird thing, and it still persists. I think if you address it right, it could be educational. If you don't,
Mhm.
you're just throwing things around and people don't understand it, as some younger people in the chat did not. Um, you know, it can be touchy, but it depends on the context. And I don't know if I would tell a writer to shy away from something if he has a point to be made about that.
That I think intent is everything.
Yeah.
That is exactly it, Michelle.
Like, why
Intent.
are you doing it gratuitously, or are you
Right.
doing it to show a point? Because I feel that it's fine if you write historical and you don't want to use those terms. I wouldn't
Absolutely.
personally. I'm not comfortable with that. But to say it's wrong for any historical to use those terms is doing a disservice to the people who lived through that. That was the reality at the time.
Mhm.
And I know this isn't the same thing, but I'm thinking about all of the cases lately of publishers taking classic books like by Roald Dahl and sanitizing them for today's use. And I have an issue with that, to be honest. I mean, I think the best quote I've heard, this is not me, in this whole debate is like, if you stand for progress, if you want to progress, then how can you do that if we're constantly erasing what we're progressing from? And
Yeah.
Right.
that's what it was. That was the reality of it. It's ugly.
Yeah.
So, if that's in your historical and it's something that could be upsetting to people, put a content warning in the beginning so that readers who might be negatively affected by that can avoid that book if they want
Yeah.
to.
Or for kids who are reading like Tom Sawyer, to have, footnotes to talk,
Yeah,
right, that
right.
educate them as they're going through it. So you don't necessarily change the
Mhm.
language, but you also give context to it and say, this is not an acceptable term. This is harmful to people.
Yeah.
And this is what, and this was appropriate at the time.
Mhm.
So, or not, it was never appropriate, but it was commonly used at the time. So,
Right.
yeah, I think there are ways to do it. It's a tough thing. The thing about being a creative and author
Yeah.
is that you're constantly pushing boundaries.
Yeah.
If it is within the context and he's making a point of it and it's just not thrown in there arbitrarily. I mean, I think about my own youth and reading novels and so many things that I've learned and looked up that I hadn't heard of before in
Mhm.
terms of history. And if we're erasing that in novels, I mean, how are people going to learn about it? It would be great
I
if we
think
could all
it's
just forget
dangerous.
about it, but erasing it and then having all these biases still present and not knowing where they come from is, I think,
Right.
another thing altogether.
Right.
The
Well,
whole, we can't understand our present if we don't understand our past.
I
And I
was
think
just gonna
that's
say that, right? Those who don't, don't know history or
Mhm.
doomed to repeat it. Yeah,
Yeah,
which
we
I've
do.
just butchered that quote, but yes, completely agree. Although I do wonder when I think about like sort of content warnings in older books where the the book might have some value, um, but the language is completely derogatory or inappropriate, that like there would be some challenges in states like Florida where we have a law on the books that basically is like you can't have any lessons that would make any group feel bad about themselves. So that pretty much eliminates any conversation of like racism
Mhm.
because and I don't want to like make this into like a Florida book banning thing. However, it makes it more challenging when you do that because if the choice was use that word with no context in the classroom or don't use it, I'd say don't use it.
Yeah.
Like if you can't explain, that's not okay. This is what happened. That's not okay. This is where we are now. If you can't give that context, then I think it's more harmful to use that type of word. We had a great question from Book Lover, and let me get rid of the banner here. Hold on just one second. I'm frozen. Okay. Dun, dun, dun. All right, so we're gonna get rid of that. I'm gonna go back over to the comments. Oh wait, I have good point. We have good comments. As an African American who loves being educated and writing my first historical mystery, I believe in accuracy without maliciousness.
Yeah.
That is,
Great phrase.
yeah, I'm all on board with that. Vixen says there are some words I won't read no matter what.
Totally fair.
Yeah, very fair. I know that's it. Like there are some words. Okay, so this is a good example. The word that I used in the book, I never use in my real life. Like I would never use in my personal life. It was something that this bad character, bad actor said, and I wouldn't stand for it. I wouldn't stand for anyone else to use those words. But yeah. All right. So Vixen, Vixen says, I write historical. There's some derogatory words that I just won't use, but that's me. When reading, if the context is right and it's showed to be bad, I don't mind. Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
The simple answer just be no.
I think some of
Yes,
it
it would.
is personal too, because there's certain things that, you know, I wouldn't feel right about writing about. I just, don't. But then there's other things that are kind of, like we said, displaying history for what it is. So
Right.
context, not being malicious, making sure we understand what it is. That was the point that I made to the person who wrote the post. And then I see a whole bunch of other posts about what we can write about and what's offensive and what's not offensive. And
Yeah.
seems to be a point of confusion with a lot of people because that post just spiraled into post after post after post.
I think it's one of those things though that people are real. One, you don't want to be on the wrong side of that. And two, it's a challenging topic and it's different.
Mhm.
Like everyone's level of comfort is different. Every author's level of comfort is different. So it is a complex question. Susan says, I think historical fiction needs to represent that history accurately. However, commenting on that history from modern perspective is often necessary. Excellent point. Stacy, I think it's a good place to show what was going on then, and you need to use what it was really like, add a footnote, but don't shy away from it. All right, cool.
Yeah, I think history always has parallels in what's going on today. And I think when I'm looking at history, that's what I'm looking for because we can learn about ourselves if we see it through the distance mirror of the past. So if we see it going on then, and then we're like, oh, gee, this is like almost a cliche. And why haven't we,
Right.
dealt with that? Instead,
Right.
we just keep perpetuating it.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. I mean, I do think it's so challenging to be a historical author because there's so first of all, the fans who love historicals they are all about those details. And if you get them wrong, they will definitely be emailing you and calling you on that.
Yeah.
So
You
there's
don't
that.
want to.
Right. And like this desire to be authentic, but also to be a good human being. And I think that's it. If you're trying to be a good human being and you approach your historical in that way while also trying to be accurate, I think you'll be okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to tell Book Lover because they needed to go. How do you get excited about writing your current work in progress again and stop being discouraged with yourself? We are going to tackle that question after our next writing sprint. But I wanted to let you know before you left that we were going to answer it so you can come back and watch the replay. So we're glad that you made it. Okay, everybody, let's go ahead. Anybody else? Let me just grab down to the comments. Angela says, totally agree. Totally agree. Vixen said, footnotes are great. I also think if someone doesn't want to use derogatory language, that should be okay. Totally agree.
Yes. You can't force anybody to.
Totally. Yeah, totally agree. Very nice. All right, fantastic. Okay, just do this. Sorry about this, guys. Angela, one more thing. Authenticity in historical novels is critical. Slaves were slaves, not servants. Just saying. True. I hate that, whitewashing of oh, everything's super duper. It's really it's just disrespectful and
God, very.
yeah, exactly.
On the other hand, with history, I guess one other point that's away from, derogatory terms, there's always things. You have this spectrum of people when you write that are going to love everything you do and hate everything you do. They're not the majority.
Right.
But I wrote a historical novel and it was set in England and I had a beta reader from England. And right up front in the beginning, I was talking about factories during those times. And people pretty much lived in those factory towns and they worked all day at a factory. They couldn't leave the factory. They even had an indoor privy. And she said as soon as she read the word privy, she stopped reading when I asked her how she liked it. So it's interesting what people are going to get offended over. And if you think about things like that, it sounds a bit disgusting to have, like something like that in a factory back in those days in the 19th century. But
right.
It's also a true piece of fiction. It was a very unsanitary work environment.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. It was. Absolutely. Very nice. Book Lover says, thanks so much. Bye. We're so glad you stopped in this morning, and we'll get your question answered after the next break. JC is here. We are super glad to see you today. Such an interesting topic. Such an interesting topic. All right, guys. Let's go ahead and get our sprint up, our 20-minute sprint up on the thing today. Dum, dum. Up on the thing. That's a technical term. All right. For the production folks out there. All right, here we go. We are going to do our first 20-minute writing sprint. Let's make this count, guys. Today is going to be a really, really good writing day. I can just feel it. All right, here we go. We're getting started in 3, 2, 1. Sprint. All right. Welcome back, everybody. Let me get rid of that terrible thing. All right. Fantastic. Very, very nice. Very nice. Oh, Heather's here. Hello. Very nice. We're really glad to see you. Mom is here. Hello. JC, did we say hi to you earlier? Hi. I'm so glad you're here. You know we love you. All right. We're going to go back and answer book lovers question. Let me drag back through. Okay. Here it goes. How did everybody do on that sprint? Let us know in the chat. How did you guys do? Robert, how'd you do?
Good. I'm almost finished with one of those scenes, so I'll definitely make progress. It's short because all these are kind of wrapping things up. It's not like big extended scenes. So
Right. Well, that's the thing. By the time you get to the end of the book, I think I had an agent tell me once, and I believe this to be true. My agent told me this when I was working on my first book, and I was like, I don't know how long it's gonna take. And she said, once you hit to 80%, you just sailed through to the end. And I don't know if that's true for me because she told me that, and I just believe it, and that I like have reinforced that, or if it's but as far as I know, like from talking to other authors, that other people feel the same way. Michelle, do you feel like that? Sail right through once you hit about 80-85%?
Yes. Yeah. It's like you're running downhill.
Right. That's exactly what it's like. You have everything. You have everything. All right. So let's answer book lovers question. How do you get excited about writing your current work in progress again and stop being discouraged with yourself? Sounds like you're in the soggy middle. And I wish you were still here so that we could ask you that question. Who wants to get started with this one?
Go ahead, Michelle.
Sorry. Still reading.
I'll start. I just feel like I'm
Oh,
the big
God.
hammer. Go ahead. Okay. It's hard,
That's a
right?
good one.
It is a good one. I mean, one of the things that I do is that I will go back. I will go in and write the scenes I'm most excited about.
Yeah.
Right. So if you laid out your plot, I think it's more challenging if you're a pantser to get that sort of excitement. But but I also will sometimes go and look at the description, like that, like sort of the blurb of the
Yeah,
book
the
that I
blurb
have.
always helps.
Right, because there's something that gets you all jazzed up. I think because it feels like a book that's done once you do that, and I always start with the blurb. Like I always write that before I ever even start the book,
Yeah.
and so when I'll go back to that, it really helps sort of remind me of what I'm excited about the story.
Something that I used to advise, and I don't do this with every book, I should though, is it can help you when you're writing a first draft if you get stuck on this isn't perfect. It's, to keep a running list of all of the things you're going to edit later, because it just kind of gets it out of your head and onto paper so you can move on. But I also advise simultaneously writing down the stuff you love. Like if you write a piece of dialogue you like, or you come up with a twist you love, or something with a character, and then when you're feeling discouraged, go read all the things that you love about the book that you've been keeping track of all along.
I love that. That is such great advice. It's funny because when I'm writing my manuscripts, I will have that was loud. I'll make notes all the way through, like, oh, this would be good for, like, this would be a good social quote, or this is that, like, or, ooh, I really love this, or don't forget this in. So it would be super easy to add in, like, oh my God, I love this, or this is so like, well, I write romance, so it's of course going to be all the like super swoony, like, whoo. Yeah. Or a particularly funny piece of dialogue. So there's that. What do you think about taking a break? Good,
Breaks are
bad?
great.
Yeah.
I highly recommend breaks.
Yeah. Sometimes you need to give your you need to give your work in progress a little breathing room. That said, if you're struggling with it, like, make sure that you give yourself a date to go back to it. Like you're taking a vacation from your book. Make it short, because if you're struggling and you stop working on it, then a lot of times it's really hard to get back into it. So do take a break, but make sure that give yourself an end date where you're like, okay, I'm going to just let this book rest for 3 days or for a week, and then I'm going to come back to it on Thursday, the 12th. And I think that can be really super helpful. Anybody in the chat have some good advice? Let's just see. Dun, dun. Okay, here we go. So Kanashi says, personally, I need to take a bit of a break or step away so I can get excited again. Yep, I totally feel that. Anna Taylor. Yay. Oh, fantastic. Glad to hear it. Hi, Anna. We're super glad you made it today. Very nice. That really was a very good question, book lover. It really was fantastic.
Yeah, I think, taking a break can be good. Think about something else, and then you'll usually come up with ideas that you're pushing too hard against. But for me, when I'm planning, it's getting back to squares and looking, because there's usually something in the planning and the plot that's wrong. And I've done that on this book. In the third quarter, it's all new material that I had to rewrite, because the motivations just didn't quite add up the way I thought they would once I got the characters playing out on the page.
Yeah.
And if you're pantsing, it is going to be harder, because then you can sit around, but you're still waiting for that next idea. You have to do something that's going to be engaging, and either watch or read similar stories. As I've said before, I'll make lists of ideas, and sometimes I'll write down a dozen or so, and then something will come up, and it's like, oh yeah, and it'll kind of get me going again.
Yeah.
But you have to kind of do something to get it jump started. Once the idea clicks and you get rolling again, that's how you get unstuck and undiscouraged.
Yeah. I think too, one way that I will get myself unstuck sometimes is thinking love is causing trouble for my characters. Uh, right? I think like, what could I do that would be really like the most inopportune time? Who could get pregnant right now? Who could like, lose their job? Who could do that? And that sometimes throwing in that extra kind of unexpected trouble, disaster, whatever is enough to kind of get you rolling again for sure. I hope that helped, book lover. I love, I love this, Liara. I'm finishing my "This Is Not a Romance" short story. I'm curious why it's "This Is Not a Romance." What is it if it's not a romance? I mean, there are many other kinds of books. I was just curious. Here we go. Dana's got a great question. At what point do you start using nicknames? For example, a character is named Katya, but as others get to know her, they call her Kat. Do you only refer to her as Kat going forward? I think it's just like in real life, where you have some people that call you one thing and some people who call you another, and so I can't. I think, I mean, what I do is make sure I'm consistent with the characters. So if your mother always calls you Kat, then have her call you, unless she's mad at you, and then maybe she'll call you Katya, right?
Right.
Or your best friend would probably always call you Kat, but then like somebody at work might call you Katya. So there's always a way where you can introduce that this is the real name, but the people who know you would use your nickname consistently throughout the entire book. And so, yeah, right?
Yes. Also keep in mind the reader is trying to keep a bunch of names straight, especially
Straight.
being like I'm thinking about, and this is so extreme, but a long, long time ago, I beta read a book where the author had a nickname for every character, and she would switch back and forth between using their nickname, their full first name, or their last name.
Oh no.
It felt like it tripled the cast, and I could not keep.
You're like, that's it. I can't do it. I feel like the main characters get like your main characters, like 1, 2 people can have like their name and a nickname, but everybody else should just get one name. Whether I mean, they can have a first and a last name, but like we're just going to call them by one name. Always their last name, or always their first name, or always their nickname. Yeah, because otherwise it can feel like you have 87 characters in the book, and it is hard for readers to keep them straight. This is another good reason why it's not a good idea to name a bunch of characters with the same first letter. Like, don't have a Bob, a Brian, a Brianna, and a Brazila. Like, you don't want to have all those people, because your reader is constantly going to be like, who is this? Who is this? And you don't want anything that takes them out of the story.
Especially if you have a large cast. I mean, the last book that I did the developmental edits on had a pretty large cast, and there were a lot of similar sounding names. And to the writer's credit, once you got into the story, she really did keep them all separate and identifiable. But when I first started reading their names, I was confused early on. So you don't want your reader to think, oh, wow, that's so similar in so many names. I'm going to have trouble with this, even if it is early on.
Mhm, mhm. Exactly. I love this from, Kanashi, rereading can also help you get back into it. Totally true.
Mhm, mhm.
Totally, totally true.
Um,
Oh, I heard an, and I thought that was us. Okay. Uh, oh, okay, so, that Chick Piper TV, I don't know if this would work for everyone or every manuscript, but I go back to what inspired me to write my work in progress. If it was a song, TV show, book, it can help with the block. Yes, that is great advice. Very nice. All right, fantastic. Dana says, once I introduce the nickname, I'll stick with it. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And Kanashi says, I've got a character that uses a hated nickname in narration and dialogue when he's feeling spiteful. I like that. How not to do names. Lord of the Rings drives me bananas. I've heard that. I'm not a Lord of the Rings person, so I regret to say I'm not even familiar enough with it to go like, oh, is that a thing? But the fact that everyone laughed makes me think it really is.
I
All right,
think
you guys. Oh, go
we
ahead.
have these biases in our own head. When we think of like similar sounding names, we think of how people name like twins or brothers and sisters, and we start to think that they're twins or brothers and sisters, and then we find out that they're not. At
Mhm.
least I do that. I've tripped over that a couple of times in novels.
I just read this book, A Love
Mm.
Catastrophe by Helena Hunting, who I love. She's one of my favorite authors. And she has two characters who are best friends. One is nicknamed Kitty, and the other one nicknamed Cat. And there's like a whole cat theme through the whole thing. And I would have thought it was like kind of cheesy. If someone asked me if they were going to do that, I'd be like, I don't know if that's like, but it worked. This is the thing. Anybody who's good at what they're doing can pull it off. So and
That's
she did. Like it ended up like feeling like a fun element, not like a like, oh God, not this again. So there we
yeah.
go. Yeah. Vixen says Game of Thrones uses the same names over and over again. True, true. Very good. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I remember when I started watching Game of Thrones and I was like overwhelmed by the sheer number of characters. And the horror geek was like, don't worry, you will catch on. By the end, you will know who all these people are.
It is very intimidating.
True, right, it really was for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go ahead and get started with our timer. We are going to do a second sprint. Somebody said, "Ooh, I got here late. I'm not sure how many sprints did I miss." This is only our second sprint, our second full length sprint. So you did not miss much at all. All right, everybody. Let's go. Here we go. We are going to get started with our writing sprint. It'll be 20 minutes up on the clock, and we're going to get started in 3, 2, 1. Right like the wind. I literally lost the button. What happened to it? There it goes. Okay. So, how did you guys do on the last sprint? Let us know in the chat. How'd you do, Robert?
One scene down, another one in progress. There's basically 3 left after this.
That's great. All right. That's cool. How about you, Michelle? How'd you do on that last one? Oh, you're muted. Hold on. I don't know if it's you or me. No, I think it's you. Try.
Got it. Sorry.
Yeah.
I said it was great. I took Rosa out and made another cup of coffee.
Sometimes you just need that.
Yeah.
Me too. I got a ton done, so that's very nice. I love this question.
That is a good question.
I love it. It's excellent. How do you write characters that are more intelligent than you are? Who wants to jump in on this one?
I will, since I'm
Yay!
doing it.
Okay.
One, I think you have to have a penchant for whatever their interests are and then do a lot of research. That's the best way. If you don't and you're just looking to write a really intelligent character, then you're stuck doing a lot of research and you have to put it in the language that whatever profession they're going to use. It can be a lot of work, but
Yeah.
that's how you do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that is the key for writers who, if we feel like we don't know something, we research. Perfect question. Very nice. I love this answer from Anna. From Anna from Brandon Sanderson, because he has some great writing advice. If you guys have not had a chance to check out his channel yet, you definitely want to do that. The writers have the luxury of time, so we can think things through before, right? We don't have to think of that smart thing that the character said right the second.
Exactly.
We have all day to make that comment really count. But I think one thing that a lot of times one thing that writers don't do as much anymore is because we have the internet available, right? And you can find something that someone in almost any profession has written, and so it's really easy to keep your research online. But if you're really struggling with that, I would try to find someone who's similar to your character and just ask if you can interview them and ask them questions about why they got into what they were doing, or what, and notice the things. How do they speak? Are there specific words that they use? Like, one thing, if you ever write about a military character, if you know anyone in the military, they use a lot of acronyms because they use so many acronyms in the military, and they're just sort of used to speaking that way. And so, and that's something that you maybe wouldn't notice in writing, but that if you actually spent time with a person who was similar to your main character, that's something that you would pick that up.
Those interviews can lead to a lot of helpful stuff, as well as be educational. I was trying to come up with some spy stuff when I lived in New Jersey for a story, and I was thinking about how they do surveillance and all that. And just by looking in the phone book at the time, I found that not very far from me was like this little headquarters of a guy who set things up for the FBI and did all this kind of work. And I called him and he loved what he did. And he just rambled on and talked to me about all these things. He sent me a little pamphlet that has all of this like stuff with cameras in it and what it would cost and how they videotape it. And I'm like, I still have it somewhere. I'm sure technology is advanced, but I got a lot of information out of that guy.
And that's really great. I had a similar thing happen when I was working on 15 Minutes of Shame. One of my characters was an attorney, a divorce attorney. And I ended up interviewing multiple times and becoming good friends with a guy named John Mayu, who was the divorce attorney for Jane Fonda when she divorced Ted Turner. And he worked for Chris Rock, and he was like this celebrity divorce attorney, but he was one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. And he like offered to read drafts of, the character, although he read the whole thing and actually gave me notes on, it's funny. I'll tell you. In the book, the character originally left to go out of town on a book tour, and I just had her like packing and getting the kids ready and all that stuff. And he was like, there's no sex the night before she leaves on a trip. And I was like, oh God. Like, it was one of those things where you're like, well, yeah, sure, of course. So anyway, it can be really helpful. There were things that he said, the way that he talked, the way that he described things, just the way that he was, that ended up making their way into the book. Love,
Yeah.
love this. Great question. Stacy got 383 words on our last spread. Yeah. Susan got 486. That is awesome. Woo woo. Very nice. Good job. I know. Mary is heading out today. We're so glad you're here. And then Kanashi says, problem with all the research is I start wondering if explaining it will be me talking down to the reader because I don't know if I was the only one clueless about the information. You don't want to do it in a way that's sort of like expository where you're, just you could just work that into the dialogue, into the movements that the character is making.
Yeah,
Yeah,
kind
go
of
ahead.
take it for granted that they know what they're talking about, but if you have to explain it, have them explaining it to somebody who doesn't know, and they're
Right.
explaining the details of what's going on, which is always an easy way to do it.
Yeah. And you don't need to go into super detail. I think most of your research will, go into sort of the mannerisms and the particular language that that person uses, if that makes sense when they're speaking or thinking. Anna says, I got words. That's all I can say. You know what? If your number is 1 or higher, you have won. So good for you. Hello, Stacy. We are super glad to see you. Thanks so much for being here today. Angela, such a great question. There are so many. I'm like a total conference junkie. I love them. So there are always local conferences that are a great way to sort of meet other authors in your area. I think my favorite all-time conference, I have 2. My favorite is the Romance Author Mastermind, which is put on by Sky Warren in Texas. And if you're not a romance author, she doesn't do it every year. She's not doing it this year. But she did it last year, and I think she's doing it next year. If you write romance, hands down, best conference ever. I also really love NINC, which is Novelists Inc. It's closed for this year. It's going, but it's already full for this year. It happens in September. And you have to be approved to be in Novelist Inc. in the group. You have to either have published 2 books. I think there's like an income level. It's not super high, but just like a threshold, like, okay, you're actually doing this seriously. That was for me a really great. I go to that conference every year. 1, because it's on the beach and it's super cheap to get the rooms, and 2, because it also has such a great the programming is so phenomenal, and I have learned so much from going there. And as far as reader conferences, I used to love to go to RWA, but I haven't been to that in several years, since way before the pandemic. But I'm also going to Orlando Reads Books and Readers Take Denver, which are 2 reader focused conferences. And I think those are always such a great way to meet readers that you might not have met before. Anybody else?
I think the most fun I've ever had at a conference was Dragon Con, which is actually like fantasy sci-fi. So you're going to see like a ton of amazing cosplay, but there was like a whole track of just writing and publishing stuff. But there was also like I went and saw a talk from a woman who was a scientist at NASA and was showing us the next Mars rover thing, like just all kinds of awesome stuff. And it was just, from an author perspective, being on panels, it was one of the most well organized and just well attended. It's never a good feeling when you're doing an event and like the seats aren't filled. And
right.
Dragon Con, that was not a problem because there's just so many people there.
So many people. Well, and if you want to go to a conference with a lot of people and great programming, and this conference focuses more on newer authors, the 20 books to 50K conference is in Las Vegas every year, and it's fairly inexpensive to attend. and it's a massive conference, and they also do it online. And so you can take a peek at past conferences to see if it's something that you would be interested in. But I keep hearing over and over and over again that it's such a great place to make great connections, that even if you are a more experienced author, that, just all the people who are there, it really makes it worthwhile. So if you
I
like
have not even heard of that one, and now I'm looking it up because that sounds fun.
yeah, 20 books to 50K. That is a great, great conference. All right, that is a good one. But I love them. Some of my closest author buddies I have met through conferences. And also, I think, we're lucky because we can come here every week and, have a little chit chat and get together. But it's hard to be an author sometimes. And it's not, I love to go to conferences because you can learn things and you see your friends that you see a couple times a year at other conferences. And I highly recommend them. It makes you feel like you're more part of the community. And I would say, since you mentioned Dragon Con and I mentioned Romance Author Mastermind, it's always great to go to those big general conferences, but also it can be great to go to conferences that are specific to your genre,
For sure.
right? Because that's really when you're going to meet. And one of the things that's great about going to conferences, you meet a lot of blurbers, like potential blurbers who will blurb your next book. So that's always good. If you're going to go, try and get on a panel because it makes it worth it. And if you're writing and you're trying to become an author, your conference, all your stuff, conference fees, travel, what you eat when you're there, all of that is tax deductible, even if you're not published yet. And even if or even if you're not making any money, you can still take that off on your taxes. All right.
Yeah, the
Very
cons
nice.
are fun. And another great thing aside from meeting people is they bring the most interesting stuff at science fiction and fantasy cons to sell that you've probably never heard of before, but
Oh
interesting.
my gosh. I remember, I do not know. I'm still I don't understand how people make clothes. Clothes making is a mystery to me. But there was a booth at Dragon Con where this woman was selling like one dress that you could twist and turn around and make it into literally like hundreds of different outfits. It
That's
it,
That's kinda
it
cool.
was like I can't even describe it. It was like magic. Like, and they were expensive, but like holy crap, were they ever worth it?
yeah.
I mean, like it was like one would be like a Snow White theme, so it had the coloring of Snow White's dress, but you could wear it like literally over 100 different ways. It was crazy.
I love that. That's great. I bought a crazy expensive skull crown at the last Comic-Con that we went to because of the for the Horror Geek,
Mm.
because I was like, I need this for this if I'm going to keep going to horror and Comic-Cons, I'm going to need a skull crown. And the thing was this elaborate, like it's pretty freaking fancy.
I've always
Okay.
wanted to go to an interesting writing retreat, but I haven't. And around here, there's not a whole lot. There was one that's nearby, and they
Mhm.
talked about space for writers, and all they were doing was renting out an empty room that had a couple of desks, and nobody was using it. And I'm like, gee, I wonder why.
It's a mystery. I love, love, love this question, and I want to answer it when we come back from our next sprint. So this is what's coming up next. We're going to do one last sprint, you guys. We're going to get it in there. Yay. That's right. All right, here we go. All right. We've got a few minutes, but we're going to answer that question when we come back. Okay, here we go. Last one. Make it count. 3, 2, 1. Sprint. Okie dokie. We are back. We have we only have a few minutes and we have a couple of questions that we want to get through. How did everybody do on that last one?
That was good.
Good.
Yeah. All right. So this is a question. You guys let us know in the chat how you did on this last one. Mist Wonderland writer Stacy says, "Hi, I just sent my first round of queries last month. Do you know how to deal with the waiting game?" Well, let's just say it doesn't matter how long you've been publishing. It sucks for everyone while you're waiting for your book when it's out on submission, either to agents or to publishers. For me, I think the best advice is to focus on one of two things. One, get started right away on your next book. Because
Yeah.
if you're querying agents, the second question they're going to ask you is, what are you working on next?
Heck
So
yes. That is the best advice, Lisa. Because working on a new pitch is fun.
it is. It really
Really.
is. And you just keep going. And sometimes you're like, I have definitely known a number of authors where their first book is maybe the thing that gets the agent's attention, but it's the second book that they actually sell. And so, yeah, get going right away. And then the other thing is just start building your platform as though it has already happened and you are published. So start like thinking about your mailing list and, figuring out how you're going to connect with readers and, whether you're going to do that on TikTok or some other social media or whatever, but start thinking about your platform. Just move forward as though it is happening. But I think getting going on your next book is probably best.
Can I tell you a really quick story about that
Yes.
episode that I think would motivate anybody to work on their second book?
Yeah.
So my first agent, she had a client who, this was a long time ago, went on submission with a book, and this one publisher, this editor was like absolutely in love with it, totally loved the writing, but it was so similar in premise to another book they already had that they just couldn't take it.
Right.
And because they were so effusive in their love of it, they were like, what else is she working on? And they had a pitch ready for a second book. And they were like, well, send us that. And so my agent and this client spent like 2 days just like throwing together a proposal. I mean, it was like intense work, and sent it to that publisher, and she got a deal. So like it really can pay off to start thinking about that second idea.
It really can. What were you going to say, Robert? Sorry.
Starting the next one also keeps the energy of your writing going. When you sit and you do nothing and worry, you stick yourself. And so much of life in this business is like keeping moving on that path. And then even if you get rejected, you're already enthusiastic about something else. So it works in that way too.
Right. And it prevents, if you're writing, you can like turn off your email and not check obsessively all day long. I know it's hard. Like, I think the waiting is the hardest thing for sure. And Michelle brought up a great point about how sometimes a publisher or an agent will really like your book, but it's just too similar to something else they already have on their list. And so when you're sending out for queries, it can be really easy to take rejection personally. It can be really easy, right? That's your baby. It's everything in your brain. It's your heart. I totally get that. But almost a lot of times, those decisions are not just about your writing and your book, but they also encompass their list and where they're going and a lot of things that you are not necessarily privy to. So yeah, we should have made that a challenge. Now, Michelle, in the last 2 minutes of the show today, you are going to have to find a way to squeeze in the word privy. That's our word of the day. I'm going to put Maz's question up on the board while you're thinking about how you're going to crowbar that in, and we'll go from there. Okay, so Maz says, is the UK book industry similar to the US one? Do you know? I don't know if the algorithm just shows me US author tubers or if there's so few UK author tubers, but I know so little about it. So yes, the UK book market is a lot like the US book market, except a lot smaller. And if you ever do a book tour, it's just going to be in that one BBC building where you just go on different floors. There are 2 BBC buildings. No, it's a lot of time in one building, though, if you ever do a press tour in the UK. But obviously the language is the same. You have a lot of really similar Amazon is obviously a big presence there, but they also have other bookstores. Borders for a long time was still prevalent in the UK, and there are other, just like in Canada, where you have like Chapters. What's the other name for that store? I can never remember. Anyway, so some things are very similar. The bookstores change, the like bookstore chains change, but a lot of the UK book industry is very, very similar to the US book industry. I don't know about UK booktubers, but I wonder. Amazon has like Amazon.com, Amazon.co.uk. Is there a YouTube.co.uk? That might be a way to figure it out. Or is it all one URL? I don't
I
know.
don't know.
I don't either. But maybe try it and see, or maybe try in your search UK author tuber and see. Yeah. So
There are some in the UK for sure.
yeah.
There's definitely those that have been around AuthorTube. Other authors might be on other groups. I was just talking to one guy from the UK over the past couple of days. He's not a part of AuthorTube though, but he was on the Writers Helping Writers site. So that's another thing on Facebook to look at.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Thank you, Eva, for the skull crown comment. Very, very nice. Maz has, oh, good. Anna's got some great, oh, yeah, Amy Sanderson. I hadn't even thought about that. Yes, absolutely. That's fantastic. Really good. Ooh, we've got Lauren Clark. Anna, to tag somebody, you just do the @ and then start typing in their YouTube handle. So, oh, good. I love this. All right, the chat comes to the rescue. Yes, just like that. You got it. All right, fantastic. Okay, cool. Okay, we have a lot of that. So Susan got, so let's go. We're just about to finish up here today. I just want to pop through the comments to make sure we didn't miss anybody's. Susan got 1261 for the stream.
Oh,
Yay! Nice. Very, very nice. Miss Wonderland writer Stacy got 274 words. Yeah, excellent. Stacy got 236. What? That's fantastic. Fantastic. Anna's got 150 words and put a baby to sleep.
Shoot.
That's super impressive.
That's the equivalent of 1,500 words, in my opinion.
I know, right? Or 15,000, for goodness sakes. My gosh. Miss Wonderland writer Stacy, I'm kind of finishing up my third book, but my second book for querying. I'm starting another project, so kind of working on two things at once. That's good. Just keep your brain occupied and keep moving forward. That's all you can do. All right. Fantastic. Waterstones. Thank you. And Indigo. Yeah. Books a Million. Yeah. I shouldn't say this. I should never disparage a bookstore. It's not my favorite, mostly because they've moved away so much from books. All right. Aw, thank you so much. You guys, you are awesome. We are here always to answer your questions. Roseanne, I love, love, love this question, and we are going to tackle it next week because we are short on time today. But I'm going to copy and paste it. Actually, let me just do a quick screenshot. Can I do that? Yes, I can. All right, we're going to do this. We will answer your question next week. It's a fantastic one. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for being here today. We are going to quickly do our outro since we're about 7 minutes past time, but we had so many good questions today. I hate to give that up for anybody. Robert, do you want to say goodbye? Everybody just say goodbye. Tell us a little about your channel as we go. Good gracious.
Hi, everybody. My channel is The Story Detective, where I take various forms of storytelling, put it under a Sherlockian microscope and break down that craft for your viewing pleasure and to make your craft journey easier. And more videos will be coming soon. I am nearly finished with this draft, which means I'll be brushing up some video scripts and batch filming in the not too distant.
Yay, fantastic. Michelle, tell us a little about you and your channel before we head out today.
All right, I'm Michelle Schusterman. I'm a young adult and mystery. Well, yes, mystery, middle grade author, that too. And my channel is writing workshops, writing blogs, and traditional publishing chat.
Thank you so much for being here as
Thank you.
always. And I'm Lisa Daly. I'm a traditionally published / indie published author. And on my channel, we talk about how to write a book you're super proud of and get it published. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here today and your awesome questions. Oh my gosh, they were so good today. And we will see you guys next week. Same time. Oh, yeah. Same time, same place. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.